When you say yes to things, you embrace possibility, and you're leaving the door open for something good to happen, hopefully. And if something doesn't work out, then and cut it and move on. But it's kind of like picking the right market to work in the land business. Like, you just don't know until you try it. And it doesn't take a ton of tries before you find something that works. It might not be the first or second time, but it'll happen eventually if you keep trying. So just be okay with failing at things until you figure out what's going to work for you.
Welcome to the Cashflow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high-performance habits, best-in-class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat. Hit subscribe and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it.
Thanks for joining us for this In the Champions Corner episode. Today, we are honored to welcome a champion real estate professional, Seth Williams.
Seth's forged a successful path in real estate, both personally as an active professional and also with his popular online community, RE Tipster, where he offers practical and real-world guidance for real estate investors. Seth got his start in real estate during the Great Recession of 2008, and after working in the banking industry for so long, he started his journey with a similar passion to ours, vacant land flipping. He's since also worked to provide value to others through various digital media channels. This is a great conversation that delves into the tremendous power of real estate and how to harness it for your own purposes. Why vacant land is the best way to generate cash flow, and it opens doors to even bigger pursuits. How adding value is the key to success, and how Seth goes about starting and scaling his enterprises.
For those of you interested in how to get started in real estate or even get started in business in general, you're going to really enjoy this episode with Seth from start to finish.
So let's get right in the Champions Corner with the one and only Seth Williams. All right, Seth Williams in the Champions Corner. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah. So on these In the Champion Corner episodes, we like to explore your background, what helped you get where you are today, and best-in-class behaviors and all of those good things. So give us a bit of your background. Kind of how did you, maybe pre or early days of RE Tipster and your journey, and what got you here?
Yeah, sure thing. So for me, my real estate investing journey, I guess, started, I think it was back in 2000, the spark lit in 2005, 2006. I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was in college at the time, trying to figure out what to do with my life. There was nothing I was particularly on fire about doing in terms of a career. And I just kind of assumed I'd have to get a job and work until I'm 60, and that was going to be my life. It just kind of seemed like not everything I could possibly do. And the only ideas I had for making a lot of money was to be a doctor or something like that. And I just frankly wasn't smart enough to do that. And when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was this big paradigm shift of oh, I get it. This is how money is made. This is how people build businesses and, become wealthy and all this. And at that time in that book, it talks about real estate, but it didn't really say anything specific about what to do. It just kind of says it's a good idea. So that kicked off couple of years of me just aimlessly trying to figure out how to buy houses and stuff, and I couldn't do it. I was trying to find houses to flip or use as rental properties, and I just spent hundreds of hours scouring the MLS trying to find anything that made sense, and nothing even came close to making sense. I would offer their full asking price, and I would lose it. Somebody else would offer even more, and I was just how does anybody do this? I don't get how you make money with real estate. But I knew I was doing something wrong because other people were doing it. I just didn't have the secrets. And it was a couple years later in 2008 when I stumbled across the land business, and not just the land business, also the concept of getting a delinquent tax list and finding motivated sellers there. And that was when everything started to change, because it was definitely a pain to get those lists and work with them, but it was crazy. After years of not being able to buy properties at over their asking price, I was now sending offers to people for a few $100s and buying properties free and clear. Like lots of them. Like people were tripping over themselves to sell me their properties like that. And it was just like, oh my word, like this is it. This is how people do it. They must find deals like this. And the interesting thing was, a lot of these people that would sell their properties to me, they did not have a for sale sign in their front yard. Like they weren't even trying to sell the thing. They just didn't care. It was total apathy. And, when you're limiting yourself to only the properties that are listed for sale, you're basically limiting yourself to a lot of the worst deals out there, because you're buying it from people who do care and they do know their property's market value and they're not willing to take a super discounted price. So figuring that out, coupled with vacant land, which originally, like most people, I was like, what? Vacant land? Like, that makes no sense. That's dumb. Why would I do that? But it does make a lot of sense when you can buy it for such a low price and then do nothing to it and sell it for a lot more. And for that matter, it's way easier than most other things because there's no people living there. And it's just a lot simpler. I'm sure you guys know all about that. And it's just been an awesome business. And I was doing that for about 4 or 5 years until I discovered the blogging world and the opportunity available there, and just the tool that can be to help a lot of other people. And a lot of stuff comes back to you in return in different ways. And started making content there and started making videos. And years later, started a podcast. And I've been running RE Tipster now since late 2012. So it's like over 10 years now. And it's been awesome. I didn't even really realize it until I started doing it. But like, I really enjoy the content creation process. It's kind of like my happy place. Like I would do it for free all day. I mean, it's a really cool thing. And it helps me to understand a lot more about what I know and think and feel as well. Sometimes I just, I'll have these vague ideas in my head, but I don't really have it crystal clear until I can explain it to somebody else. And it's kind of like Albert Einstein said. He said, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. And that's kind of the test I go through. Once I can really convey it well in a way that people can understand it, that's how I know when I've actually got it myself. So, but yeah, that's kind of my story of how I got into real estate and what I've been up to. And I guess that's not everything, but that's,
nutshell version.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that. And I ascribe to that philosophy as well, that, there are stages of knowing, and you can certainly read, but once you have taught, or at least in the blogging world, it's packaging it up in a organized and structured way, and that thought process itself really ingrains, then like you said, that you at least have a working understanding of something, more so than just, reading it and letting it soak into your brain. But so I guess you went to college and kind of got right into entrepreneurial world. No W-2s for you or anything like that?
No. So I actually, sorry, I left that part out. So when I graduated from college, I pretty soon after that got right into the banking world. And I worked for a company. We did SBA 504 loans. It's kind of a niche commercial loan product. Did that for 9 years. And it was, it was a mixed bag. It was mostly good. I mean, I was really thankful to have the job, and it was a good career and all that. But it wasn't what I was born to do. I was, I'm sure a lot of people out there with jobs can relate. Like it's fine, but like, this can't be it. Like there's got to be more than life than what this is. And so I was just kind of had that nagging feeling in the back of my mind. But in the meantime, as I was figuring out the land business, it was helphelpful to have that career because there was a lot of stuff I learned in that job that carried over into a real estate investor's world. Like understanding, because the particular loans that we did were commercial real estate loans. So my job was actually to close loans and to get applicants approved. So it taught me a lot about just the loan world and how you underwrite people and how you understand, is this a good deal or not? And if it's not, why isn't it a good deal? And I'm very much more of a right brain thinker, so creative. I'm not very left brain analytical necessarily, but that was a very left brain job. So I could certainly do it, but it wasn't like, it didn't fit like a glove per se.
Yeah, like you said, your happy place.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And so, okay. And so during that 9-year period, you kind of had one eye in the, what is going to be my way to make money, as you say?
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't necessarily know that entire time how it was going to pan out, but I knew how hard of a time I had trying to find deals on houses and that kind of thing. And when I found land and saw how systematizable it was, and I don't want to say easy, but way easier to find deals with lots of equity on the bone, it was just like, I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't know what kind of deals are going to come up, but like, I got to do more of this. Like, I know there's a lot more to discover here. So I basically spent a lot of my free time and, lunch breaks and weekends and time after work doing that. And it was a time in my life when I was married, but we didn't have any kids. So there was definitely some margin, not a ton, but definitely enough to make a lot of progress toward that end. And that was kind of how I spent my time. And it was kind of weird. I remember I felt sort of antisocial because I was being antisocial at work, where people would be like, "Hey, Seth, come to lunch with us." And I'm like, "Sorry, man, I got to work." And
I got to scrub a list.
Yeah. Exactly. And, it's kind of weird. Like, part of me feels bad because I think I sort of came across as like, I don't know if it was unfriendly, but just, I don't want to hang out with you kind of thing. But it's like, I had to, like I had to make decisions and sacrifice that if I wanted to move on and move up. And I was able to do that. And a lot of those people are still there. So I don't know.
That's the point, right? I mean, it's so easy to get on the hamster wheel, and if you're following the masses, right? If you're influenced, or the result of, or however you want to say it, of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Well, if you're just going out to lunch with coworkers, and in a way, I mean, there's something to being social, and if that's your world, and you're working, and I did the same thing. I mean, I went to school. I had a doctor in my vision of kind of where I thought I was going to go, and for other reasons, it didn't work out for me. But I did just jump into the world of corporate, and it wasn't my dream job or anything like that, but it was paying the bills. And then I found myself just chasing promotions and chasing raises, and having kids and getting a house, and it's almost like you can't get off at some point, because you don't have the wiggle room to do that, unless you do what you did, and you invest whatever free time you have in trying something different, and that's a big takeaway, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, we talk to leads and different people that are trying to get their way out of a W-2 job, and it does take that. I mean, our story was a little bit different because we both got laid off at the same time, and we had like almost a burn the boats type of approach, where we just went all in. But other people, you have to do that. You just have to scratch little bits of time away, and put the kids to bed, and invest an hour or two here, and do those kind of things. So it's I'm impressed by it. Like, I do think it's admirable, people that it sounds like you had an overriding purpose and a goal and a drive that was enough, that said, "Hey, I understand going out to lunch with you guys would be nice, but I have a mission. I'm on a mission." And we talk to a lot of people. I mean, land is one of those things where when you get a taste of it, and you see a deal work, and you have that light bulb moment where you go, "Holy crap. This is way easier than taking down an apartment building, or, buying a house or something." So, beautiful. So you, sounds like got into land, pre-Great Recession.
Oh, it was actually as it was going down. Yeah. So it was like January 2009, I think, is when my first deal happened. So like it was just as things were falling apart, and I was working exclusively in Michigan because that's where I live, and I had this idea in my head that I have to buy land where I live.
In your backyard.
Yeah. And it was a terrible time to do anything real estate in Michigan, but I still was able to make it work. And so that kind of told me, like, hey, if I could make it work here in the worst place and time, like I could make it work anywhere probably. But yeah, I mean, my deals would look like, buying for $300, selling for $2,000, or buying for $1,000, selling for $4,000. Like just a lot of those over and over again. And yeah, it was pretty monotonous. It was really exciting at first, but it started to get kind of boring. It kind of just felt very hamster wheel-ish. And but eventually I started coming across like huge deals. Well, to me, they were huge at the time. Like the first time I did a deal where I paid, it was like $4,500 and then sold it for $45,000. And at that moment, that was the biggest deal I had done. And it was more money than I was making in my day job that whole year from one deal. I was just like, whoa, like this is nuts. Like I was making $2,000+ per hour to make that whole deal happen. And it was just super exciting. And as I look back on it, like it actually took me quite a while to pull the plug on my job and feel comfortable doing that. And I think I've heard it said that everybody is either like a hunter or a farmer. Like a hunter is one who gets really excited by like chasing down deals and the thrill of the hunt and that kind of thing. But they get really turned off by slow, monotonous growth. Whereas farmers are the other way, where they're not really that excited by chasing down stuff. They're fine just making very small incremental gains over a long period of time. And in return, they get predictability and security in a way. And I'm definitely much more the farmer. And I feel like I'm kind of unusual in that way. Most people that I know that are like super driven are hunters. But I'm just not. I'm actually like, I actively avoid having to hunt for stuff. I'd rather just, do things that I know are going to work. It doesn't have to be huge, but I know this is going to give me a couple steps forward. And it's okay if it takes me a while. And I don't know, it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. It's good and bad in different ways.
Yeah, it's very similar to a risk profile or a risk tolerance of sorts. I mean, I can somehow relate to your, the thrill of the hunt there's something to that, but yeah, I'm a much more methodical, lay the groundwork, let things grow and unfold. And I think that comes from a risk. I see more risk in plunging in. If we had not been laid off, I don't know if we would have started into real estate or the land business, because I was all in my corporate career and just spending any extra time there, checking emails or traveling or whatever. But yeah, that's an interesting viewpoint, Farmer Hunter. I'll have to check that one out.
It really resonates with me as well. I think at times this particular business model is quite boring. The juices are not flowing, and we're not extremely passionate about what we do. What I realized, we're passionate about the lifestyle that it gives us. We're passionate about being able to work from anywhere, having that financial freedom, time freedom, and schedule freedom that we didn't have that in a W-2 job. So
for sure.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, I was curious. We got in after the Great Recession in kind of the mid 2015, 2016. But I've always been curious. You hear how certain asset classes perform during recessions and growth periods and all that stuff. And land seems like a solid. I mean, we talk about it in hard times. You can generally find more deals, and in boom times you can sell more deals, and you just work the however the certain market cycle is, but certainly haven't been through something as large as the Great Recession. But that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think no matter where the market is going, it's just a matter of kind of adjusting things for how it's going. Like, in some ways, it's been sort of a kind of I don't know what the word is. Unfortunate that when I got into it, things were so bad, simply because that was like normal for me. Like the standard was you offer 10% of property's market value and you sell them for 50%. Yeah. And you never go out on a limb. Like you only bet on sure things. And that's fine when things are going terrible and you'll protect yourself really well. But when things are going up and up and up and up, as they have been since that time, you'll lose out on a whole lot of opportunities. There's a lot of stuff I've walked away from because it wasn't perfect. It wasn't like a can't lose deal. And holy cow! I mean, I know friends and acquaintances in the land business who have just made millions in land on stuff that like I was just kind of too gun shy to go after because like, hey, what if another 2009 happens? I don't want that to be me. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because I don't know that we're headed towards that again, but like things have slowed down on the selling side and that kind of thing. And I don't know. I basically I haven't done this long enough to come full circle to see the whole thing come back again. And I don't know, part of me is always like, I hope everything crashes because I'll be right at home. I know just what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's, I guess what it's getting at is it's really helpful to be able to change at the times and be flexible. And I think it was Jean-Paul Getty who said, in times of rapid change, experience can be your worst enemy. So it's like, just because you've done it a long time doesn't mean you're going to be the most nimble and you can turn on a dime and change to how the market is moving that day.
Yeah, so true.
Yes.
Well, then it sounds like you expanded into online content, let's call it blogs, that kind of thing. Do you have a healthy RE Tipster blog now as well? So I can certainly appreciate. I like the content creation side of things to a degree. I think that's. It's also a way of, as you put it, learning and absorbing information and making sure you're packaging and putting it up. But are you still doing land? Personally, yeah. So
yeah, my land has always been a part-time thing for me. It's never been my full-time gig. It's always been something I've done on the side. So I mean, my volume's definitely, it's not a full-time volume, but it's enough to basically the deals that I do these days. The reason for me doing them is to keep my feet wet and stay relevant and keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. Like, how many mailers does it take to get a deal now? What kind of mailers should you send? Does mail work at all? Like, what markets make sense and all this stuff? It's changing a lot. I feel like the land business was very predictable and stable, and it didn't change much up until the pandemic hit. And since then, it's changed a lot. And I feel like it keeps changing every month. It's a little bit different, which has actually made it kind of a challenge to stay on top of it with the content creation side. Because, it used to be stuff was very evergreen. Like I could say, this is how this works, and that would be true 5 years later. But now it's like, well, not really. I mean, sort of, but like there's context now, and you have to understand, that maybe this ratio has changed, and maybe your expectations should be different. And there's a lot more people working in the land business now. So it's been kind of a fun, kind of annoying challenge to stay on top of that. But yeah, for me, I mean, it comes down to like, what do I really enjoy the most? What do I have the most fun with? And for me, that's RE Tipster. I mean, I feel like, I've said this a lot to different people, but like every Monday morning when I walk into the office, it's like I'm a kid running through the gates of Disney World. Like I just cannot wait to get started. It's so much fun for me. And land is really fun in that, you get to see these huge deals with huge margins. And it doesn't necessarily take a fortune to get into that business. I mean, it's a great business model, but like it does get kind of monotonous. And I don't necessarily love talking to motivated sellers all day long. For me, it's like taking things that I have personally struggled with in the land business and figuring out how to crack the code and make it easier for people is a lot of fun. And I'm not much of a salesperson. I'm really terrible at it. But what I can do is explain things really well. And RE Tipster has kind of been this thing where, at least so far, I've been able to just explain things to people. And in a weird roundabout way, it finds a way to generate revenue. It might not be directly like, I'm going to do this today and then tomorrow I'll make money. Like, it's not like that. It's like, I'm going to do this thing today and then 2 years from now, I might make money from somebody from that. And it's really hard to track, like, what buttons do I need to push to make money with RE Tipster? I don't really know, but I'm going to keep being as helpful as I can to the world and trust that it's going to come back in some way. And so far, it has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, adding value. It's really a powerful and true force or whatever you want to call it. But really, if you're just out there constantly working to add value, generally it comes back. I'm curious, in the land business and in your blog or your communications platform, or however you want to call it these days, how have you gone about scaling? So, you touched on something that we talk about a lot in the land business is once you get going, and it is a very approachable business. I mean, right? You can find your way at many different price levels. And I think very quickly people find their niche where they're buying. I mean, we came into it. We got started. We were very conservative. We were doing things, and then you figure out, okay, bigger deals work, and then you go, okay, to do a bigger deal, up to a point, it takes the same amount of work as the smaller deals, and so we might as well be in this zone and those kind of things. But have you built a team and or system of automation around most of yours, or are you still, when you do your deals, are you still pretty hands-on in terms of market research or sales calls or things like that?
I wish I could tell you I've got this awesome automated system where I just sit there and money flows in my bank account, but it's not how it works at all. I'm actually, it's probably one of my biggest Achilles heels is I'm really not great at delegating stuff. And I'm actually trying to get a lot better at this. I'm in the middle of this book right now called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's a pretty brilliant framework in terms of, I don't know, he just explains it really well, like how to know when you shouldn't be doing something and how to be okay with somebody else doing it 80% as good as you do. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the land business, so again, kind of like what I said with the deals that I do, the point is for me to be intimately aware of what's going on. And if I have a giant team that I'm saying, you do all that stuff, it's I don't know, it's just, I would be so removed that I think I would kind of lose it. So that's why it's more of I'm going to do, maybe 5 or 6 deals a year, and I'm going to be intimately involved with that. Like I'm going to pull the list. I'm going to send the mail to the mail service. I'm going to respond to whatever calls come back, and I'm going to make it happen. Occasionally I'll get realtors involved to sell the thing, so I don't have to do that. And that's actually a pretty huge help because a lot of times that's the most time-consuming part of this, and it's like half the business. So it's great to have somebody else to handle that. But yeah, but really it's, again, like the point of it is for me to, I mean, I want it to make money, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I want to understand what's going on. And on the RE Tipster side, so my team has kind of changed over the years. I've got a full-time editor now, but that's it. It's him and me. And I used to have like an executive assistant. I used to have another Jaron. He used to be a content creator alongside me, but the team has just kind of changed. And yeah, and I think I'm still figuring this out, by the way. I don't have this totally nailed down, but I think I'm kind of getting to this place where like I'm basically sacrificing growth to put out the best possible content I can. And I don't know if that's the right place to be, honestly, especially as I'm reading Dan Martell's book. He's making some compelling cases as for how that's not the right mindset. So I don't know, but that's kind of how I've been handling it over the past year.
Yeah, there's a right for you, and you're right. I'm a believer. There is no right way. We have this discussion all the time because we are. I think when you start comparing yourself to others, that's where as I say, the suffering comes from. But we are intimately involved in our land business. We like it that way. I am the same as you. I want to know what markets I'm going in, and I want to do the research. I want to look at the comps. I want to figure out who we're going to send to. Lygia does a lot of the customer facing type stuff where she'll get on the calls and talk to people and do things there. We just don't outsource a whole lot of our business. But yeah, I mean, if content creation is your happy place, then, and it's working for you, as long as it's not holding back something else you want to explore, then, it's probably a great place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a happy medium or something? I'm sure there is. You can also just go 100% chat GPT.
Yeah, that's the goal right there. Yeah, I've also been, I've recently gotten into the self-storage business. So I built my first facility. We finished it this summer. That was like a 2-year-long project. And I want to do more of that. That's kind of actually, again, I'm not 100% sure on this, but in this moment, I'm thinking that's kind of the direction I want to ultimately go in terms of like, I want more of those. And the reason being, I kind of think, again, everybody has whatever's right for them, but like when I just look at it for me, the goal is almost like to work my way out of the land business or out of any business really that requires me to be there all the time. And with land, it's hard to do that unless you have a big team in place. And with RE Tipster, again, that's kind of hard to do as well, unless I just want to sacrifice quality and just kind of, make a content from, which I'm not really interested in at this point. But self-storage is something where, I've got a good property manager. Property management isn't even really that difficult or expensive with self-storage, and there's a demand for it. And it's a very scalable business. I mean, once you own a facility, you can raise everybody's rent by $5 and make a lot more money just with that small change that nobody even cares about. And there's a lot of reasons that that's appealing to me. And so far, it's been going pretty good. So I don't know. That's kind of, I think, where I'd like to steer the ship.
Yeah, I love that. Also we're very in lockstep in that way. We've been talking about our future, and land is not our optimal end state because of that. It is an active cycle. We do a lot of owner financing, and so there's a replacement cycle that has to happen. We were into multifamily for a bit. That's also the syndication model is a lot like flipping because you're getting a deal and you're in it for 3, 4, 5 years, and then beyond that you have to find new things. And so we're looking for similarly what is out there that we can own outright, whether it's apartments or a self-storage or whatever, that cash flows as long as we want it to, without involvement if we don't want to be involved. But that's certainly some asset classes we're looking at, and that is something I did also want to explore with you as a reader of your blog and kind of seeing what you've done over the years. It sounds like you enjoy trying out a lot of new things, coffee plantations, storage, whatever. Is that just kind of a natural proclivity of yours that you like to try out other things?
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of weird. I don't know if this is healthy, but a lot of times when I look at opportunities, I'm looking at it through the lens of, okay, there's the cash flow or the profit, but like, can I make content about this though? Like, would this be interesting to people if I did this? Just to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and make it useful for more than just me. There's part of it is just like, this is interesting to me. There's probably other people out there that would find it interesting too. It's I don't know that I've done like a ton of trial and error. There's been the coffee farm thing. There's been, very minimal investment in stuff like Fundrise and that kind of stuff. There's been land deals. There's been the self-storage thing. There's other like concepts I want to try at some point, like the idea of buying a triple net lease building, like a bank building or a daycare building, and getting a tenant that's in there for like 15 years and they're paying for all the maintenance and taxes and insurance and everything. It's just super hands off. I've got a local friend here who does that, and he's done really well with it. So I think that's pretty cool too. The main drawback to that compared to self-storage is that it doesn't have quite that scalability factor because there's just one door that you get paid for, not 200 doors that you can raise the rent on. But it's still very hands off, and you get the depreciation write-off and all that. So, yeah.
We just, I think we just released a podcast episode with someone we met, Dan Leibowitz. He's a broker and he does triple net leasing. And it was a whole new world for me, but it was very intriguing when he was talking about it. I was like, oh, wow.
I should talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I was just about to I couldn't find it. But I know he's somewhere, if not in your market, close to your market. I'll have to look that out.
I know that name. I don't know where I've seen him, but yeah, I'll check him out.
Yeah, I'll shoot you that after here, and I'll have to double check, but it's somewhere up in there, I think. But anyway, yeah, it sounds like a great way to invest in some instances. Just more so than multifamily in terms of just what you mentioned, expenses and all of that shifting over to the tenant side. Yeah, really, really good stuff there. I guess, so I don't know if it's fair to say you had some early success, but at least early in real estate, you had good success with land. And it sounds like maybe that enabled and opened doors to try out other things. But what have you seen as, being kind of fundamental to your I'll call it success. I mean, that's obviously a qualitative term, but to your growth and things over the years, be it financial or mindset or anything like that.
Yeah, good question. I think, like in terms of any competitive advantage or, I don't know, unfair advantage I might have that the average person doesn't, man, I don't know. I'm definitely not like super smart. It's not like I'm a genius or something. I'm very normal, but maybe it's like the blend of strengths I have in my brain are such that I happen to enjoy and be good at things that a lot of other people aren't necessarily good at or enjoy. Like, for example, I'm definitely not like the most amazing land investor in the world. I mean, not even close, but I really understand and enjoy helping people understand how it works and explaining like really difficult things that other people like pay lip service to, but they don't really get to the point of like how does it really work? Like peel back all the layers, like show me the good, bad, and the ugly, not just the thing that's going to make me buy your thing. Show me like, why should I not do this? Like, what are the gotchas, all this stuff? And I'm pretty good at uncovering most of that stuff. And I find it kind of fun. And I think it's hard to excel at anything you don't enjoy on some level. And I happen to enjoy doing something that, a lot of the best real estate investors out there, they either have no interest in teaching people about it or they're just not good at it. Like they might be good at doing the sales pitch part of it, but when it comes to like actually connecting all the dots so it makes complete coherent sense, that's where it's less common to find that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that. I mean, that's why we started the Cashflow Fight Club podcast, is we wanted to match up different businesses in investing and get beyond the marketing pitch, right? I mean, it's easy for people to sell you on syndications or sell you on the land business or sell you on, but there is an unattractive underbelly of all of these, right? There's different aspects. And I really appreciate, especially as an educator or somebody that wants to help add value, is giving that well-rounded picture, right? I mean, you don't have to scare anybody off, but hey, we talk to a lot of people that want to get into the land business, but don't want to be active. And it's like, well, it's an active business. I mean, you can set it up after some time, or if you have a lot of money, you can set it up to be run like a business. But it's very rare to find those kind of things. So yeah, that is I think that is a great talent, and also obviously, as you've seen, a sought after talent. Because I think a lot of us, as we want to pursue anything, we want to know, what am I stepping into, and what am I really going to enjoy this when I get into it? So,
and I think also, like, I mean, another thing that maybe has made me last or whatever get to where I am is, I kind of don't know when I'm beat, or like I don't like I can do things for a long time and not see any result and still keep doing it. Like it's not like I think I have a limit at some point, but like with RE Tipster, I mean, I was doing that for over a year before I made a penny on anything. And that was always kind of the end goal, but like the reason I was able to do it that long is because I enjoyed it. If I was going into it with the expectation that I got to make 500,000 by month 6 or I'm done, like that's just not how it works. And a lot of people, understandably, don't have that kind of patience. And, by contrast, they probably get a lot further a lot faster too, because they gravitate to that stuff. But for me, it's like, I can make a thing work even if it's like really slow. Like I'm okay with that. I want to know that it's fundamentally sound and that I believe in it and enjoy it and that I can keep going after it.
How have you gone about monetizing RE Tipster? Or did you back then? Was it courses, advertising, all of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually what really appealed to me about the business model of being a blogger, is that once you have an audience, like there's tons of ways to do it. And you don't have to do them all. You can just pick and choose what you want to do. So for RE Tipster, I mean, probably half of the revenues from various courses and, different digital downloads and stuff we sell. There's also a lot of affiliate income from basically just talking about stuff that I use, and I explain how it works and the good and bad of it. And it's like, hey, maybe you want to use this, maybe not, but if you do, here's an affiliate link. and you can get a discount if you go through this. So you might as well click through that kind of thing. And there's, it's, affiliate marketing is, I don't know, you can waste a whole lot of time because there's a lot of affiliate programs that just don't work. Like you might make $5 a month from it. It's just not worth it. And you don't really know until you just try it and see what happens. So there's probably been like 100 different affiliate things I've signed up for over the years. And maybe like 5 to 10 of them have ever amounted to anything worthwhile. So it's just kind of a matter of figuring out, okay, what kind of stuff do I know is good? And I know my audience could benefit from it. It's not something they don't need. Like they legitimately already need this. And they have an affiliate program and it has a decent conversion rate and it pays well enough. And there's actually a fairly small box of things that all those things are true. So, yeah, that's another way we make revenue. There's also like ads on YouTube. We used to have ads on our site. We don't anymore because they were kind of just cluttering things up. And there's also like occasionally people want to pay for an ad on the podcast or something like that. So there's all kinds of different ways that I could do it that I haven't even explored, honestly. But it all starts with having that audience. And you don't get an audience unless you're, truly putting out meaningful content to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How have you gone about developing your content? Is it purely personal interest and experience, or do you need like market research, or whether that's formal or informal, but things like that?
Yeah, it's usually, so it's kind of, we've got our podcast, and that I basically just find people that I meet them and it's like, oh, you got a cool story. Let's talk about the podcast, and whatever they happen to know or their background happens to be, I'm genuinely curious about like how things work. So I really dig and try to figure out everything about them. So there's that, and there's tons of lessons to be learned from other people. But in terms of like a blog post or like a video that I might make, it's usually either something that I'm like personally dealing with, or maybe I'll be hanging out in our Facebook group and I'll see somebody post a really good question or a problem they're dealing with that I know I've dealt with too, or I've heard multiple people talk about this problem. And then I get into it and realize, wow, this is a tough thing. Like there's not an easy answer to this. Let's figure out what answers are there. And of those answers, like which ones are the best? What are the pros and cons of each? And sometimes that takes a long time. Like right now I'm working on a video about how to choose a market for land flipping. And it's a subject that's been done by a lot of different people. I'm not like the pioneer to do this first, but the more I dig into it, the more I realize like, there's just a ton of ways to look at this. And like, there is no bulletproof way. Like they all have their flaws. None of it's a crystal ball. And I started to ask myself, like, how much time should you spend on this? Like, should you just give yourself a timer limit of 1 hour and then do it? I know people that spend weeks and months researching markets and that kind of thing. And I don't think you really know. Yeah, you just don't know until you start trying it and see what comes back. And that's when you learn 100 times more. So I don't know, it's a tricky thing. And I think my approach is, I'm trying to break it down to like, there's a super easy way to do this where you just look at like, 2 hours around a big city in a growing state. Like that's the super easy way. Or you can start looking at like the sold to for sale ratio, figure out what that looks like. Or you can like go really deep and figure out like, all right, how many properties were sold in the past 18 months by a flipper compared to the total number of parcels in that county. And I find that the deeper and deeper I go, the less reliable the data becomes, because some counties just have terrible information and you're not even going to know that. And so you're going to make a decision based on ratios that aren't even really reliable. So it's like, I don't know, there is a point at which it's like diminishing returns. Like just get 70 or 80% sure and do it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Specific to that, I definitely relate. I can get wrapped around the axle trying to figure out and paralyze myself on, but yeah, the best way is really to get partially there, test it, go try it. Right. We're not talking life-changing amounts of money to test a market and do things there. So it's interesting, but yeah, those are some great, content finding tips. Definitely being out there and looking and seeing what are people asking, and what are the questions, and is it something that I can explore or add value to is a great way to to get out there and do some research and find content to create. I mean, county research in markets is one that, at least in the land business, and not just the land business, and really any real estate, is top of mind for almost everybody, because it's a starting point. And it's really one of the biggest keys to success. Speaking of that, maybe on a personal nature, what types of things do you do personally? Habits, different routines, or whatever, to stay personally, keeping your mindset sharp, or things like that. Do you have a regimen?
Yeah, good question. So I'm usually always reading some kind of book. Like I'm somewhere in the middle of that. Let's see, in terms of just like stuff I do for fun. So I actually really enjoy making videos. I'm like kind of an amateur videographer, which works really well with RE Tipster because I use it for that too. But like every time my family goes on a trip somewhere, I'm usually documenting that with a video. And I don't mean to brag, but like they're pretty awesome videos. It's kind of like next level. Like it almost looks like a movie kind of thing. And I just have so much fun with that, because I remember the first time I saw what other YouTubers were doing with their videos, and I recognized the impact of a well-made video. Like it just really kind of gives you this built-in unspoken authority, just because like it looks so legit. And I love that, making good videos. And
are you an iPhone photographer, or do you have are you geeking out on the camera tech or things like that?
So kind of both. I mean, I like to have my big honking camera with me, but it's a pain. It's like having a third child that we haul around everywhere. And I mean, it does great footage, but like it also like intimidates people when they see a big camera come up. Like, so it just kind of messes with it sometimes. But my family and I just went to Galveston a couple weeks ago, and I shot the whole video just on my iPhone. And like, I'm kind of amazed. Like, it's not quite as good as a big camera, but it's not that far. Like, it's pretty good. And as we were watching, I was just, man, I can't believe this whole thing was done with a phone. That's just crazy where we are now.
Yep, totally. Any other like meditating or vision boarding or anything like that helps you anchor yourself?
I'm actually pretty bad at that stuff. I've got a couple friends that are super big into like vision casting and meditation and stuff like that. And that's just not me. I'm sure it would probably help me, but it's not my strength, is like having the discipline to like set aside time to do that and actually like be present. I feel like, and this is kind of a weakness of mine, I feel like every day I'm kind of just running like crazy, trying to get stuff done. And, so it's probably something I need to work on, honestly. Do you guys do that kind of stuff? What works for you?
Infrequently, I aspire to have a meditation practice, but I think so far here in 2024, I've meditated once. So it's not, for me, it's physical. I'm a runner. I love to get out and run. If I haven't done it in a few days, I really feel it.
Me too. I sometimes tell them like,
you're not a runner. I was like, what? You're not, but she feels it if I haven't been out running is what she means.
It's like, I think you should go for a run, because he comes back happy, super happy, in a great mood.
But we do, I mean, we are goal setters, intention setters. We're pretty regimented about, trying to cascade those down, right? We have a yearly goal. We want to do so many land deals or so much revenue or whatever, and we'll back that up into quarters and weeks and go about just to make sure we're following as best we can to do things like that. I signed up for a really hairy 100-mile trail race later in the year, and so I have yeah, it's insanity. I don't know why, but I have put together a vision board in my workout area, and so that's it. That's the first time I've really done that. I've thought about it a lot in life and business just because I've heard it, but it's not my natural tendency. Same as you, it might help me. I don't know, but yeah, we're big readers as well. I have the book you mentioned there, Buy Back Your Time, but I haven't read it yet. It's on the list. So yeah, that's Lidge and I are similar in that way too. We're kind of personal development junkies almost. Just there's always a hot topic that's floating around. But yeah,
it's interesting. I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs I know. Are you familiar with the DISC test, the DISC? It's kind of so. A lot of people I know are really strong in the D category, like the dreamer, like the visionary, like they can, make really good goals and do what you're talking about, like keep it on track and reverse engineer it and make that all happen. And when I took that test, I found I was a really strong S, which basically means I make a great employee. Like, I'm not so good at thinking of what to do, but like you tell me what to do and I'll do it and I'll do a really good job. And I kind of hate that about myself because I feel like that's like the least glamorous role to play, where it's like, I'm just the worker bee. And so I've always kind of loathed that. And it hurts me that I'm not a better visionary because there's a lot of times I feel like I'm just doing stuff and it's not really getting to any end result. It's not fruitless, but like it would be better if I could just actually come up with smart goals and stick to those. But on the same coin, like it's not all bad. Like it's kind of how I've gotten where I am is by just plugging away all the time. And it is kind of my happy place. So I don't know. I got to figure out a way to become a better visionary, I think.
I don't know. I like the fact that you just asterisked or caveated your statement because you are where you are with your own personality, and that's good. Sorry, I'll talk.
No, I had a thought and I don't want to forget to ask, but it's obvious to me, comes across very obvious that you are operating in your unique ability, that you do what juices you. I mean, not many people can say, I cannot wait for Monday morning to go into my office. Most of us have the Monday blues or whatever, but I wanted to ask you, what tips do you have for people that are looking to embark in this journey to find their unique ability? Because apart from wanting to make money, we all want to be fulfilled and we all want to do what we really enjoy in life. So do you have any tips for the listeners that are interested to find that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it took me a long time to figure it out for myself. I'm 40 now, and I didn't figure it out until I was about 30, 31 is when it clicked. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is my future. And so, I mean, there's that. It took me forever to figure it out. But I think the way I got there was just by trying a lot of stuff and trying to be well-rounded in that, like, I'm not going to know if I really enjoy something until I really give it a good try. And, I maybe depending on like if you go to college, where you go to college, that might be sort of built into that. Like I went to a liberal arts school where you have to take all these different courses that you'll never use, but hey, you're not going to know until you try. So yeah, just in general, like try to say yes as much as you can, at least up until a point, until you get really busy and you have to say no. But when you say yes to things, you embrace possibility and, you're leaving the door open for something good to happen, hopefully. And if something, doesn't work out, then, and cut it and move on. But it's kind of like picking the right market to work in the lamp business. Like you just don't know until you try it. And it doesn't take a ton of tries before you find something that works. It might not be the first or second time, but like it'll happen eventually if you keep trying. So just be okay with failing at things until you figure out what's going to work for you.
How old are your kids?
My son is almost 7 and my daughter's 9.
Oh, youngsters. Okay. We have adult children, 24 and 7, coming up on 8. But it's I love the advice. I haven't. It took me late in life to get the courage to not only the courage, but and this is where I want to go with this comment is I think in life you need to engineer your life in such a way that you have the space to say yes, because I mean you said it. You will get too busy at some point to where you find yourself not being able to say yes to certain things or opportunities as they come up. And, that can come in many different forms. Most often it's the consumerism. At least it was for me get out of college, get a job, buy a house, have kids, and then all of a sudden there's really just not the room to say, hey, I'd love to explore this as a side hustle or switch careers or whatever. And if you don't have that space, it's not impossible, but it's really hard, I think, to say yes in those ways. But yeah, I mean, I do like the concept of, I mean, that's the only way. I was always envious of people when I went to school or whatever that just had this laser focus. They knew, oh, this is my path. I'm doing this and that, and it wasn't that way for me. Although I did have this vision of being a doctor, but then once I got into undergrad and figured out that I faint at the sight of blood, I figured out, okay, maybe I need a plan B. But I'm generally, as a person, curious about so many things. I like a breadth of exposure rather than super deep. I like to go deep on a lot of topics, and especially the ones that I really get in and enjoy. But not. I couldn't do one thing intensely for my whole life. I don't think I wouldn't enjoy that. But yeah, saying yes and being curious and just trying different things. It's the only way to find it out, because until you try it, you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know Brene Brown? You familiar with her? Yeah. So I heard something on Netflix. She'd had like a special where she did this presentation, and she said something at the end that kind of stuck with me where, when you get to the end of your life and, you're about ready to die. I can't remember what exactly she said it, but basically at the end of your life, you're looking back, like, you don't want to have all these things where it's like, what might have been? Like, what if I had tried that thing I wanted to do? And I'll just never know, And if you do try it, whatever comes from that, at least you know. And you don't have to end your life wondering what might have been. So, yeah, like you said, I think there's a window in your life when it's a lot easier to say yes to stuff. So, like, do it as much as you can, because it won't always be that way, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it happened late for me and us, is just life arranged itself in a certain way. Our kids were grown and in college. And so we didn't have mouths to feed other than our own. We had a different risk tolerance at that point. And then there was, the fact that our workplaces left the geography where we were working and stuff. So anyway, but there was that pocket where, okay, it is, I'm on the ride here. I got to stay on the ride and keep doing some things. But it's so hard as a kid. I mean, I watched our own kids get out of school and just plow into jobs, and I'm thinking, oh, there's another way.
But if I look back, we also had to say yes to the unknown, yes to the challenge, because back then, when we both lost our jobs, it was easy to try to find other jobs.
We could have just gone back into the workforce.
Yes. And I think to your point, it's so important to say yes and embrace the challenge.
Well, other than self-storage, what's the future hold for Seth? What are you working on? Anything new and exciting?
Like I said, I'm pretty bad at vision casting, so I don't really know. Past 6 months from now, I really have no plan or idea where it's going.
Sure.
But
there's beauty in that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I would, I'd like to keep doing RE Tipster as long as it's fun, but yeah, I think ultimately either self-storage or some kind of, buy and hold real estate, probably in the commercial realm. And and I think that's something that the land business is really useful for, because it's a great cash generating machine. It's not necessarily where you want to camp out for life, but if you just rely on your job to try to do that stuff, it's going to take forever to get there. So it's good to have something to, even if it's a lot of work, something that can pump out some big paychecks a lot faster.
I hear you. Well, we've mentioned RE Tipster a few times. For anybody that wants to get in touch with you or find, is that the best place, or how best to get in touch?
Yep. Yeah. retipster.com, or if you look for RE Tipster on any social media platform, you'll probably find me there somewhere.
All right. Well, we're certainly grateful for you taking a little bit of your time and sharing some insights and imparting some wisdom in the audience. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Any final thoughts?
we like to end our episodes with gratitude. So do you have anybody that you want to shout out to that you're extremely grateful for where you are today?
First name that comes to mind is my business partner, John, and the self-storage thing. He kind of came into the picture. He wasn't originally going to be part of it, but he kind of just came into the picture halfway through the project. And he's been awesome to work with. He's the property manager. And not just that, he's got a lot of great ideas, and he's a mover and shaker. And I just am lucky to be able to work with him. So yeah, shout out to John.
Awesome. Great partners can do wonders there. Well, Seth Williams, retipster.com. Thanks for joining us in the Champions Corner today. We certainly appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks again.
All right. Take care.
For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.